Hi, my name is Eilidh and I am a lecturer in statistics within the School of Maths and Stats. And in this talk, myself and my colleague Colette Mair will introduce a bit of a background on the online distance learning and data analytics programme that we offer within the school, with a specific focus on how do we teach online in a subject that requires handwritten content. So of course, when we put in this abstract to the L&T conference, we had no idea about the events that were about to unfold. So we're hoping that many of you will get something out of this talk, whether or not you're interested in producing an ODL programme yourselves, or whether or not you're just thinking about how you're going to move your teaching online for the coming semester. So in this talk, as I said, I'll introduce our ODL programme in data analytics. I'll describe some of the learning technology that we used in the programme, and then my colleague Colette will present results from a study where we asked students which teaching methods they preferred. So we got some student input into our teaching that we can then use going forward. Okay, so a bit of background. The MSc was developed as part of the university's blended and online learning initiative, and it was launched in September 2017. The year later, we launched the PgCert and PgDip programmes as well, so we now offer all three. And you can see that we've had a steady increase in students over the years. So our first cohort back in 2017 was about 25 students, and last year we had about 81 students starting with us. So it has increased gradually over the years. Now, the audience that we target tend to be those who are already in employment. So most of our students actually work full-time alongside doing the MSc, and that's why it's a part-time MSc. We generally have students who fall into one of two categories. So first of all, we may have students who have an interest in the qualifications that we offer, and they view that as sort of upskilling in the career that they're currently in. So you can imagine right now there's an enormous demand for data analytics expertise, which maybe wasn't so apparent, say, 10 years ago. So when these people perhaps went into employment, they didn't have any of these skills, and now they need them to fulfill their roles. So they see this as a way to upskill in their current jobs. We also have students who maybe don't work in data analytics, but want to. So they see this as a career change qualification, but they don't have to go back into full-time employment to do so. So they can still work. Say they have families to support, they might not want to come out of full-time employment. You can see from this map, we've got students from all over the world. So currently we have students across 6 continents and 41 countries. So these are students who are all living and working and completing their MSc within these countries. Although you will notice about just over 50% of our students actually still live in the UK. So it's quite good. We've got a really nice network of students. It's a really good networking opportunity for our students as well to be in contact with people from all over the world. So the programme structure, as I mentioned, our MSc is part-time. So usually the default route will take you about 3 years to complete your MSc. We run in trimesters, so we have 3 trimesters across the years. And in year 1 and year 2, you would take 2 courses per trimester. And then in your final year, you would complete your MSc project. So this will be an advanced piece of statistical work that you complete over the full year. We encourage our students to propose their own projects based on, say, something they're working on in their current work, as we feel as though they're going to get the most out of it if they do so. We also offer a faster route programme, which students can complete across 2 years. However, it's far more intense. So in their first year, they're now taking 10 courses instead of 6. So you find that most students tend to take the default 3-year route instead of the 2-year. But we do get some students who come through on the faster route programme. So it's just some updates for this year. So this is the first year of our MSc in Data Analytics for Government, which we're launching in September, or the MData Gov. And that is delivered via ODL again, and it's in partnership with the Office of National Statistics. So we will provide some of our ODL courses, and we also have some courses being provided by the School of Social Science for that as well. So I think we are now the only university in Scotland to offer this programme, so it's really great to get that up and running for this year, and hopefully it'll be very successful. And as part of that, we now offer individual courses from our programme as continuing professional development, or CPD. And that's just offered for learners who are supported by UK public sector bodies. They can then opt to take our individual courses as learners or as non-student learners. So it allows a bit of flexibility for people who might want to take a few of our courses but don't want to invest in a full 3-year long MSc. So we actually launched some of these CPD courses for the first time this summer, and they've worked really, really well. So we're now going to continue doing that across the whole year, which is quite exciting. It's something that we've wanted to do for quite a while. And then finally, we updated our entry requirements this year to allow for professional experience to now be taken into account. So we had an industrial advisory board where we had invited some members of different employers or different companies to come in and sort of talk through the programme. And one thing they pointed out was our current entry requirements, which is a first degree equivalent to a UK upper second class honours degree with a strong mathematical component. It maybe wasn't fair to view that as the same. Say, for example, someone has a degree that they got 25 years ago, to compare that to someone who maybe doesn't have a UK upper second class degree, but they've been working as a data analyst for, say, 10 years. So we now decided to take that into account. So graduates who have achieved a degree classification which is less than our entry requirements, but they have some sort of substantial experience in data analysis or programming, data management, stuff like that. These applicants now might be considered, and we usually offer them an interview where they can speak to the team, and then we decide whether or not they'll be successful. So just some things to consider if it's something you've maybe had in your mind to maybe develop one of these programmes. First of all, developing and running of a distance learning programme is certainly not for the faint-hearted. It requires a lot of time and effort and investment of staff time. Anyone who's worked on our programme, I'm sure, will tell you the same thing. It's very intense, but it's also very rewarding at the same time. You have to bear in mind, at least for us, that you're writing material for a different audience. They maybe have slightly different priorities to an on-campus full-time student. So you just have to bear that in mind as you're creating the material, but also in the way that you deliver your material and the expectations that these students might have in terms of staff contact and the times that they might expect staff to be available. As I showed you in the map, we have students from all over the world. They all live in different time zones, so that can cause some teething issues as to when and how they expect staff to be able to be available to answer some of their questions. And I guess also for students who live in the UK, if they're working full time, they maybe want contact in the evenings and at weekends, which ideally for staff is not when you'll be working, so you sort of just have to keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that recording and editing the videos can take a bit of time. Most of our videos tend to last about 5 to 10 minutes, but it can take way over an hour to actually get these recorded and edited and uploaded to YouTube, which is how we share our videos with our students. So just bear that in mind. You don't want to leave all of your recording to the last minute. And then finally, this is probably something that we're all going to have to deal with over the coming months, but not responding to a face-to-face audience can be quite challenging. So usually you're used to getting some immediate feedback from the students who are sitting in front of you in the lecture, whether that's verbal or looking at their faces to see if they're interested or confused or whatever, whereas you're almost just talking to a black box here. So it can be quite challenging to gauge how the course is going, but we certainly encourage trying to interact with the students as much as you possibly can, whether that's via email or via Teams or via Moodle. The chats on Moodle are quite good as well for people to ask questions and get feedback from members of staff. So now I'm going to quickly talk you through some of the learning technology before I pass over to Colette. So all of our material is provided as asynchronous content, and that allows the students to study at any time that suits them, which is really, really important for our students. They're presented as interactive web content with videos, and we provide a PDF option that they can download as well. Now, we use our Markdown-based production environment, and I'll just quickly show you what 1 week of our notes might look like. So this is just taken from a random course. So you can see that we have within the notes all of the content for each week. We also have worked examples that we'll go through within the notes. We have some tasks that students can try themselves, and the solutions are provided at the end of the document. And then finally, we have the links to the videos for our course as well. So really everything a student needs for each week is provided within these notes. So a lot of time and effort goes into the development of these. And all of the courses have a very similar looking style of notes, so it makes the programme look a bit more professional as well. And then we also, for the recording of our videos, we have a film studio that's been created by some of my colleagues in the Maths and Stats building, which you can see in this picture. And this here is what we call the light board. And what that does is it allows the lecturers to be face to camera while we're writing. So the lecturer will stand at one side of the glass board, the camera's on the other side, and the camera will film you through the glass board. So if you're writing solutions to a problem, for example, on the board, you don't have to continuously turn your back to do so. And the film is then flipped 180 degrees so that you're writing in the right direction and not backwards. So just to give you an example of what I mean by this, I'll show you one of our videos from the course.
And that's less than 4.5, again minus the mean, which is 4, and divided by the standard deviation, 0.6. This is then equal to the probability, and now this value here, because it's been standardised, is just a standard normal, so we can denote that as Z.
So that just gives you an example of what our videos look like, and those videos tend to last between 5 and 10 minutes. We keep them quite short. We also provide Khan Academy style tutorial questions. So for all the tasks that you saw in the notes, we provide sort of a written solution with a voiceover. And again, I'll just quickly show you.
The right eye, so variable x, should be less than the left eye, which is variable y. So putting that into a mathematical statement, we're looking for the probability of x being less than y, as that indicates a better.
So we just feel as though that provides a bit more than a static typed solution. They get the sort of the lecturer's thoughts on how you actually solve each problem. So along with those videos and tutorials, which can be interacted with at any time and rewatched as many times as students like, we also offer some one-to-one video conferencing meetings with our students. So we'll offer some slots on Moodle that they can book, and then basically a lecturer will meet with them on Zoom and students can ask us any questions. So these are almost like our office hours, and they're quite nice. You get to actually speak face to face with the students that you've been teaching across the weeks of your course, which I enjoy, just getting to put a face to people's names. And finally, we also offer live sessions via Zoom. So these are completely optional because we're aware that not everyone will be able to make the time based on where they live or their other priorities that they have. So these can be thought of almost as optional tutorials. We'll maybe go through a couple of examples. Students can ask us questions. We use Zoom for these, and the whiteboard functionality in Zoom is quite good. Students can also take over the whiteboard, so if they want to answer a question for you, then they can. Not that they very often do, but it's good to have the option. So now I'll pass you over to my colleague, Colette.
So now let's return back to the question of interest. How can we best teach online in a subject that requires handwritten content? So in this particular study, we're going to focus our attention on 3 approaches. The first is this traditional type of lecture with neatly laid out typed solutions on a PowerPoint presentation, say. The second are these Khan Academy style videos where the lecturer can work through a problem by hand and the students are able to hear the lecturer's voice. And the last is using the Lightboard technology, which Eilidh's already discussed. So in this particular setting, the lecturer stands in front of our Lightboard and the student can watch them work through a particular problem. So during the academic year of 1920, so just the academic year we've just finished, our Year 1 students on the Master's programme typically take a predictive modelling course in the second trimester, beginning in January. So during week 10 of this course, students were introduced to the idea of missing data. So in particular, how can we handle missing data in a regression type problem? So students were then asked to watch 3 recorded lectures, one of each type of delivery, and each lecture lasted around 5 minutes, and each lecture also covered the exact same learning material. So after watching all 3 recorded lectures, students were then asked to go onto Moodle and complete a very short survey. So they were asked firstly which mode of delivery they preferred between the 3, but then students could also opt to leave a comment. So not only do we get to know what they preferred, we want to know why. So as I've already mentioned, the first was a traditional type of lecture. So you can see here that I'm standing on one side and my PowerPoint presentation appears on the other side, and I just talk the students through the slides, just the way you would normally do in a lecture. The second was a Khan Academy style video where I was able to write out the solution to the problem, and students were able to hear my voice, but of course they weren't able to see me. And the last was using our Lightboard. So you can see here I'm standing in front of our Lightboard. I'm able to write out the solution to the problem, and students can see me do so. So based on this very short survey, we found that around 50% of our students preferred the Lightboard as their favourite mode of delivery. Around 40% preferred the traditional type of lecture, and around 10% preferred the Khan Academy style videos. So let me say at this point that actually only 20 students chose to participate in this study. So it's definitely something that we want to repeat in probably a much larger scale, and it's something that we're hoping to do so over the next academic year. So again, not only were students able to vote on their preferred mode of delivery, they were also able to leave comments, and out of the 20 students who chose to participate, 12 of them then chose to leave a comment. And we're just going to spend a few minutes going through some of the comments that we received. So this student preferred the Lightboard as their favourite mode of delivery. And although looking at missing data in a regression type problem isn't the most complex of ideas, this student noted that when it does come to looking at more complex problems, they can definitely see the benefit of using the Lightboard. So in particular, they liked it because they found that it changes the way important messages are conveyed. So as we're working through problems, students not only pick up on what we're saying, they also pick up on kind of how we're acting in our body language. So they can see when we have to stand back and think about a problem. They can see when certain aspects of a problem are things that are kind of bookwork, things that they should know and we're able to write down really quickly. And then they can see when we have to stop and think about a particular aspect of a problem. And that's something this student really valued, I think. And this student noted that they liked the solution to be written out by hand. And obviously they like using the different colours, and I guess that's something that we typically use throughout most of our courses. So this student said that they actually prefer the R graphs. So in statistics, we use R very frequently. So in particular with predictive modelling, we use R not only for our data analysis part, but also for data visualization. And this student noted that actually having these nice graphs by R made it look way more professional. And I think that's something which is definitely missing when it comes to looking at the Lightboard and even perhaps the Khan Academy style videos as well. But this student also noted that the Khan Academy style video lacked that personal touch. So they're able to hear me, but they couldn't see me. And I guess this is what this student's picking up on. They like to see the person in the video rather than just hearing the voice. So I think in particular when it comes to online students who don't really get to see us, by having someone standing in front discussing new ideas and new problems, then it kind of puts a face behind that voice, or a face behind those learning notes, or a face behind that email. So this student said they don't actually mind too much between the whiteboard options, but they do know that it does. They do note that it does help to see the lecturer draw the solution out, and in particular, it helped them indicate what they should be focusing on when they're answering similar type problems. And again, this student noted that with the person visible, the message is more personal. So I think in particular, this cohort of students definitely liked seeing the person. Although it's nice to have the professional look of a PowerPoint presentation, I think our students really value more being able to see the person and able to see that thought process behind answering problems that you just don't really get to pick up on when it comes to neatly presented slides that are nicely typed out. So as I said before, this study is based on just responses from 20 students, so it's not a lot, and we definitely want to repeat this moving forward into the next academic year. And from the 20 students, 12 left comments. So obviously I've only picked up on a few of them. We did have a lot more comments, but they were of a very similar nature. And as I say, we're going to repeat this experiment, hopefully engaging more students. And also we should note that all 3 videos were conducted by myself. So we don't really get to pick up on that variability between lectures. So some lectures obviously deliver content in a really different way. And it might just be that some lecturers do it much better than me, or they have a much nicer voice, or they're much more animated than maybe what I am. And I think, as Eilidh's already mentioned already, that we do see a place for each type of delivery method, as we've already discussed. So with the Khan Academy type videos, this is something that we use for tutorial type questions and examples and tasks that students are asked to work through after reading through the learning material. And obviously it's always nice to have neatly typed out presentations, because that gives the students an idea of the exact solution, the exact result that they should know. But I think in particular for this type of course, using the Lightboard where students can see you, they can watch you write out the solutions, and they can hear you, and they can kind of see when you stop and think about it. They can see when you're able to write out results that you kind of know off by heart. They can see that thought process. It's definitely something that's very highly valued when it comes to presenting new ideas and new content. So in particular, the lectures that we have throughout our learning material, again, Eilidh showed you a quick snapshot at the beginning of this presentation. We have these lectures kind of in between or included in these lecture notes. The Lightboard really comes in handy when discussing those new concepts and ideas. So just to sum up what we've talked about today. So our particular cohort of students preferred the Lightboard as their mode of delivery. And the students really seem to value that personal touch over the professionalism of a typical PowerPoint presentation. They really valued the perspective of listening to someone who understands the subject area, and they could see the clear benefit of working through a problem in person. So the Lightboard really has the ability to combine these very popular Khan Academy style videos with face-to-face learning for our online community. So this technology can really enhance student learning, not only from the perspective of online students, but I guess moving forward into the next academic year when we're all going to have to do more online teaching, it can really help with our online programs from a really wide variety of disciplines. So let me just thank you very much for listening to our presentation. And we're always really interested to hear if anyone's got any questions or comments. So on this slide, you can find both Eilidh and I's email address. So we do really encourage and invite you to email us with any questions or comments that you might have. So again, thank you very much for listening.